Preview.
When we're thinking about exiting your business or M&A activity, how does fraud relate to that? Well, it's part of the operations of the business. So whether you're selling your business or not, it's something to keep top of mind, something to look to implement processes and procedures and controls to potentially eliminate or mitigate fraud. And then I've seen situations with clients where they're looking to potentially exit their business, or they're going through the due diligence process, whether on the sell side or they're looking to sell their business, and there's some the buyer is doing buy side due diligence, and something is uncovered during that process. So it may not have been something that you were aware of, just running your business on a day-to-day, month-to-month business. But as you start to dig down, drill deeper, review documents and records, obtain supporting documentation and those sorts of things in anticipation of selling your business or providing information for someone, the buyer, to do due diligence, it may be that you uncover some potential fraudulent activity. And so I always like to provide some of the context, some of the information for clients so that they're aware of these different types of fraud schemes, different types of fraud, and so that you can be better armed, forewarned in a sense, to potentially identify or mitigate those situations in your business, whether it's before a deal, before you're looking to exit your business, or even just during the normal course of your business. And an exit or a transaction may be far off on the time horizon. But the ACFE has a fraud tree where it breaks occupational fraud down into three distinct categories, one being corruption, the other being asset misappropriation, and then the third category is financial statement fraud. And so, as you can imagine, there are different types of fraud schemes that fall within each of those main categories or those larger categories. And as I mentioned before, asset misappropriation based on survey results tends to be the most common type of fraud scheme. And then billing schemes tend to be the most common type of asset misappropriation schemes. There are cash schemes, fraudulent disbursement schemes, and then inventory and other asset schemes. So those are things you want to be aware of. Think through the best approach in terms of putting processes and procedures and controls in place to look to eliminate those or try to mitigate the potential for those to occur, and then also have the ability to identify situations where they are occurring and put a stop to it as soon as possible. Because again, I've worked with clients before who were running their business and then start to get into the process of due diligence and looking to sell their business at some point, and then realize that there was an issue, potential fraud issue, misappropriation issue, and it can really change how they approach whether or not they're going to sell the business, how significant the fraud situation was, what information they may have provided to the potential buyer previously that they may have to amend or restate or provide additional or follow-on information from. So it's something to keep in mind as you're running your business and thinking of a potential exit, whether it's in the near term or the long term. So as I talked about before, the ACFE has the report to the nations, and the fraud tree in the three categories I mentioned before relate to occupational fraud, which is fraud that occurs or is at the hand of somebody within the company. So an employee, executive, business owner. But there's also the potential that fraud is perpetrated by someone outside the company. So it could be a supplier, a vendor, a client of the company, some third party outside the company that is potentially looking to misappropriate assets or commit some sort of financial fraud. So again, whether a company is contemplating a transaction in the near term or it's a much longer term horizon, I think it's very important for clients to make sure that they are aware of monitoring and ensuring that the company is looking to avoid, to the extent they can, or mitigating the potential for misappropriation or other type of fraud scheme.